Hey there, folks. Hope you're doing well today. Well, some of the born again Christians are calling for a civil war. And we really like the way that this guy approached it, born again barbarian, for a few different reasons, and we'll get into them all in the video. But we really like where he begins in talking about the semantics of how it would work. And that's usually where we begin our questions when someone starts talking about this. Like, who's going to fight who, and where are the battle lines drawn? How do we identify the different sides? And let's see where he goes with this.
Why America needs a civil war, and I don't say that lightly. This nation is in very desperate need of a civil war. But let's define who the sides are. What are the different sides, the opposing sides? Well, let's have a race war, right? Blacks against whites. The two greatest opposing forces racially speaking. No, because there are blacks that are decent people, there are whites that are decent people, there are blacks that are bad people, there are whites that are bad people. All races have their good and bad people. So how would you differentiate to kill off the bad ones without destroying the innocent ones or whatever else? See, it wouldn't work. Okay, so you can't do it on racial lines.
Okay, so did you catch that? He begins by saying, well, let's make it based on race. And he says, no, that's not going to work because there's blacks that are good people. And so what he's doing there is implying that the majority of them are bad. He quickly then tries to recover by saying there's also whites that are bad people. Then he goes on to keep fumbling all the different variants and options of how people in different races could be good and bad. And at this point, he should have just stopped the recording and just did another take. But, oh, Jesus Christ. So at the end, he comes to the conclusion that a civil war could not be fought on racial lines. So where does he go next? And I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait, maybe he's going to go men versus women. But no, it's religious lines. Let's just hear him out.
Well, let's do it on religious lines. Let's have a Catholic/Protestant war. Kind of what goes on in some countries like Northern Ireland. I know that they've had some issues, Catholics versus Protestants. And why don't we do it that way? Again, you can't do it that way in America because there are some Protestants that act like Catholics and Catholics that act like Protestants. And, you can't just say, oh, you're a Catholic, you belong to the Catholic Church, you deserve to be slaughtered, or you're a Protestant heretic, you deserve to be slaughtered. That doesn't work either.
And so there he tries to make it a Catholic versus Protestant thing and talks about Ireland. But again, how would we identify between the two different groups? How do you identify the Catholics? How do you identify the Protestants? And how do you identify everyone else who doesn't identify as either of those two? And do you notice the young kid in the background? Well, his dad is pacing around having Civil War fantasies and trying to put people into buckets and groups that should fight each other. I'm sure it only gets healthier from here.
Why don't we do left versus right? Again, you have the same problem. You have the same issue of there are some leftists that are pretty decent. They have sort of libertarian, more of a libertarian type of viewpoint on things. And then there are some conservatives that are really dumb and whatever else. And there's some leftists that are decent, and there's leftists that are really dumb, and there's conservatives that are pretty decent people. So again, you can't just have complete line of division there. All right?
And again, nowhere is he getting into how you're going to identify the different groups or where these battles are going to be fought. But listen closely to this next clip. He's going to talk about the Civil War, the original one, and how it was designed to kill people. Also take note of how he talks about the number of white people that are killed. And so, again, when you look at his comment about how some black people are good, or the number of white people that died in the Civil War, these are white nationalist dog whistles.
Just as in the actual Civil War back in the 19th century, that was kind of a stupid war too. It was designed to kill a lot of people, which it did. 650,000, white men. Very terrible thing. Mostly what fought. I realized that there were some regiments I think that had some blacks in them and probably some other types of people. Some Jews and things that were involved in fighting the Civil War, but it was predominantly white men that lost their lives in the Civil War. Kind of a stupid thing. You say, well, I don't understand. Then what other lines are there? Oh, maybe people that are for the LGBTQ thing, and then you get the conservatives or something. And so we'd have camouflage guys, the conservative right-wing militia type, versus the Rainbow Brigade flying their rainbow flags. Maybe they could have rainbow camo or something. No, that wouldn't work either. Okay? Because not all sodomite type of people or whatever, they don't all dress fruity or whatever else. There are some that don't dress like that. And whatever. And there are some people that might be a little bit tougher that are for the whole LGBT thing, whatever else. Again, you can't say it's a clear line of demarcation.
And in this clip, we continue to see him play off these Civil War fantasies. After he makes it past the white nationalist dog whistles, we see him talking about camo militia types versus the Rainbow Brigade. I don't think you could get more transphobic than having these type of violent fantasies. It's a good thing you're recording them and putting them on the internet, dumbass. But most importantly, why does he think that Civil War logistically won't work out? Because not all sodomite people dress fruity. And then some of them are tougher, like he only wants to have fights against easy targets. The people who are tough, we got to avoid them. Quite a barbarian here. Now, even though he's said nothing but nonsense so far, in the next clip, things begin to land. He talks about how it should actually be the people versus the elite. Let's keep in mind, born-again barbarian was never a fan of Donald Trump. But let's see if he clearly calls him out and the policies that helped create the elite billionaire class and destroy the middle class. The tax cuts for the rich that were provided by the Republicans.
Well, then what would be the clear line of demarcation? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Because the clear line that separates people like us, you and me, the common people, guys that have shops that we actually go out here and work with our hands and build things with our hands, and the other group, the people that don't know how to do that, the ultra-billionaire elite group, the people that are constantly involved in scams of usury and whatever else, and they're the tyrants that basically try to run the normal people. That's where the Civil War needs to be.
So wait a second, is he saying we should take up arms against the elite class? Okay, so he says it's a non-violent civil war. Let's hear him out and hear what his ideas.
You say, are you saying we should take up arms against these guys and start going out? No, there's actually better ways to fight them. You see, there's so few of them, and that's the way it has to be. Because if it wasn't that way, there'd be no point in becoming a ultra-rich billionaire. If it was just sort of a common thing and everybody could be a billionaire, well, what's the point? They have to keep their numbers very small. They go to their private clubs. They don't want it to just be anybody off the street. They go to their secret societies. Again, not open to everybody. To be a Mason, you have to know a Mason, kind of a thing. We've received the right hand of fellowship. We'll bring you into our ranks only when you've proven that you are one of us.
Okay, so he says it's a non-violent civil war. Let's hear him out and hear what his ideas are and how we can wage this war.
They know that they can't take us on force against force because, like I said, they're few in number. So they have to get us to comply to their system. That's where it comes in and gets pretty interesting. This is where we wage our war, by non-compliance with their system. Don't go and support them. Don't go to Trump rallies. Don't go to his flags, whatever. It doesn't matter. Trump, Biden, whatever other Democrats out there, Republicans, whatever.
Okay, so when he finally breaks down what his idea and strategy is for showing the billionaires, he leads with, don't go to Trump rallies. Don't buy Trump flags. And then realizing he could piss off so much of his audience, he actually has 100,000 subscribers, he then has to throw Biden into the mix. Because we all know we on the left are out here buying Biden flags. And, Joe Biden, the billionaire businessman, these people want to try to be real, but when it comes to keeping it real, they can't because they're grifters who pander to their audience. And yes, there's a problem with the elite, but not going to their rallies or not buying their t-shirt is not going to change things. We need to tax the rich, especially to pay off all the bullshit that Donald Trump has done. It sucks that this guy can't say that part out loud or can't call out Donald Trump out loud. And don't get this twisted. We're not saying just tax the elite on the right. We want everyone to be taxed. If you're on the left, if you're on the right, if you're part of the billionaire class, you need to pay extra. And the idea behind the justification of that is this amazing capitalist society has allowed you to make so much money, more than you'll ever need. And it's your duty to pay back into that system to make society better. It's a pay-it-forward mentality. But wait, there's more. He's got a long list of the different ways that he's going to really show the billionaire class. Let's take a look.
And so we have to start to say, you know what? Not going along with that. No, sorry, not going to do that. Oh, you want to take my property? Well, I'm going to get it paid off. I'm going to be debt free. And I'm going to start to get food, not from your big chain stores, but I'm going to grow food myself, hunt, forage, fish, whatever. I'm going to do it that way. And I'm also going to support small local farms of other people like me, not billionaire farmers. See, I'm going to rely on local small phone companies to be able to communicate with other people, or I might just actually drive to the business and deal with them face to face.
And so here, some of these ideas are really naive. He doesn't understand that small mobile phone companies are just leasing from the larger providers, all going up into the billionaires' pockets. But he's right. The elite are part of the problem. It should have been pretty obvious when Elon Musk was up on stage, dancing around like an inflatable tube man. But we need to come together and actually get serious about what real solutions look like and how those solutions work to repair society, especially in a moment when jobs are threatened by AI, housing costs have never been higher, and the elite have never been more corrupt.
Leopards are eating my face.